Welcome to Film Study, an all American podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi, and I just wanted to say thank you for all of the support as I've taken some personal time away for some personal reasons. But yeah, I just appreciate all of the support that I've gotten, like on Twitter and in the comments and everything. So yeah, but here is the second part of our podcast on breaking down Simone's character, and I hope that you enjoy it as
Yeah.
we shift into Homecoming season 1. um we immediately see sort of the differences for her as an individual, right? Like
Yeah.
and I want to sort of take this by topic, because I think that's easier to do than sort of chronologically, for talking about Homecoming. But
hmm
I think one of the first challenges we see her have, which is a very realistic challenge, is adjusting to adjusting to college, adjusting to being on her own, right? She
Yeah.
she went by herself. She moved in by herself because, her parents
Her
obviously are not
parents,
the most
obviously,
supportive,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
Which is still very,
And
and
just horrible,
I have
horrendous.
issues. I have issues with Tina and Robert.
Same here, same here.
Like
Um
how? It's
yeah,
that was
it's
horrible.
just,
Yeah.
and Robert, like, I was just like, at least Tina is consistent. Like Robert, I don't know, like, she
I
be trying to
don't
be like you, the good
know.
guy, and you're still just like going along, right? Going along with whatever, literally,
With
because
whatever
right, because
Tina says.
with whatever Tina says, and we see this immediately because, right, she shows up to classes. She's struggling with showing up to classes, like juggling assignments. But then we very quickly see that her mom pulls the funding, and her dorm room is taken away. She has to move
It's
in with
taken
Amara for a
away.
little bit, has to get a job, right? And so it's just like they were just like, oh, why was it just the dorm? And it was just like, oh, well, my dad convinced my mom to like not
Pull
put
the
me out of
school
college. I was
card.
like, what is okay? So
I
your
was
dad can
like,
also convince your mom to not take away your dorm so you have a place to live? Like, I don't.
or pay for it himself or something.
It,
Like, why
facts,
couldn't he pay
facts.
for it? But
Yeah,
we're not
who
going to get
who
into that
knows?
though.
Her dad is spineless, and I say that standing up, complete, completely. Like I stand firm on
Oh
that
my
her dad is
god.
spineless.
Yeah,
Because at
yeah,
this
I
point, it's
think.
like you doing too much.
You do whatever
Um,
Tina says or something.
exactly, and then like just try to make it better here and there, but it's just like you can't. You got to be either hot or cold. You can't
You,
be
c-
warm in the middle. I
yeah,
can't
you have to be
stand that.
100% or don't come at all. Just don't come at all.
Exactly, exactly. So again, dealing with the fact that she doesn't have a room, and has to move in with her aunt and everything like that. Thank God for her aunt. She's trying to balance things, and that's what we see her very early on in the season trying to do, is trying to balance things. And so this idea of her being unable to balance it for the first time, and being away from, her family, and being away from her, what was her life and what was her normal, and obviously Jordan and everything,
hmm
it gets to her and she experiences a panic attack. um
Was it?
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it also has to do with her getting into tennis, and we'll get into the tennis stuff,
Tennis,
but she
yeah.
experiences a panic attack, just with everything that she has going on. And I think that's the first time that we as an audience have seen her um
You know,
off
be
balance, and like off
vulnerable.
balance
Yeah.
without, yeah, without like immediately, because I think that whenever
You
she's
know,
been off balance before, even if she didn't have a plan, she always did something. Like she always took action. And so I think that with the first couple episodes of season 1 of Homecoming, we saw her really not being able to take action like she would, I think.
yeah.
Which I think led to the panic attack. So what did you think about that? What did you think about like her dealing with all of that, like classes, assignments, etc., etc.?
Okay, I'm going to start with something. I think there was something she said in the first episode to Auntie Amara. She was like, like, did I make a mistake coming to college so far away? So I feel like deep down, she already had this. You know how it is, like the whole baby thing too. It's easy to
Hmm.
say, I'm going to go to Princeton, and then what follows up with it, like the reality of it catches up with her. The fact that she's in this college that is so far away from her family, from her friends, and then she's leaving that reality. Because unlike All American, where whatever issues she was dealing with was resolved within such a short time frame, and so much of the storyline was not exactly focused on her. So there wasn't enough room for us to see the different personalities that she's not just going to be the firm person, she's also that person that sometimes doesn't know what to do or is a little overwhelmed with situations, which is what we saw at first when she came to Branson. But then, I mean, she found her feet eventually, but it was natural that without all that family support, without all of that, moving so far away from home in an environment that she was not like, I mean, she had Kate, Nate, and Keisha at first, but then she still had to deal with things on her own. And I feel like that struggle was valid, it was natural. Again, like I said, without the family support, because if she had that family support, I feel like the journey would be a little different. So that was expected. The fact that it was overwhelming. I think the world will be overwhelming. The world is overwhelming. She was overwhelmed with the new environment without the support. I mean, if I heard that my dorm fund was taken away, I don't even know what I would do. So what if her aunt wasn't there? So what would have happened? But then again, we knew
I
that she
agree,
had
and
to
that's
be
why I'm
there.
just like that's why I remained seated on the her dad is trash, like just pure trash. Because okay, you saved her college experience, but what if she was out?
Okay,
What if
so
the
where
market's
was she
out?
supposed to leave? Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
Um, but to that point, she had a lot that she was dealing with, and something that I said that we were going to come back to is tennis. So one of
Tennis,
the
yeah.
reasons that she had the panic attack is because she had a late physical, um, or an expired physical rather, which is to be
Hmm.
cleared to play and to practice with the team and everything like
And she
that.
couldn't
So she
pay
needed
for
to
a
have
new
a
one. Yeah.
right, right. And she couldn't make an appointment at the school clinic. Like it was just very, very full. So she needed to pass
Hmm.
the physical. She was juggling everything that we mentioned with assignments and showing up to classes, etc., and trying to get a job. Um, and so that was hard. That was hard for her. That was just like, her trying to make it back onto the tennis field because, as we said before, she took off so much time when she got pregnant. And as we just
Hmm.
know in general, like it's hard to come back as an athlete after a
Yeah.
pregnancy, specifically in tennis, because it's such a physically demanding sport and
Challenging.
it's
Yeah.
all about endurance and
Hmm.
everything like that. So uh, so in the first part of the season, we see her trying to make the top 10 of the team. And she does that, and she has like these, matches here and there. She has
Hmm.
like a alumni match, a doubles game with Thea. She has different matches throughout where sometimes she wins them, sometimes she doesn't. Very early on when they were doing Queen of the Court, right? She came in second, which is crazy, right? She almost came close to beating
Yeah.
Thea. But like throughout it, she still sort of has these struggles. Like she's excelling,
Hmm.
but she's not always like winning her matches.
Hmm.
And one of the times that we see her struggle the most is when, she has this opponent, and it's one of the big tournaments, right? And she has a panic attack in the middle of the court, because
Hmm.
the opponent psychs her out. And so that's when we see her and Thea get a little bit closer, and Thea talking about how she
Yeah.
needs to find her zone. Um, and she eventually does, but again, that doesn't come without its challenges because she has a panic attack and loses the match. But she comes back and she gets it right. And is really just trying to climb her ranks on the team.
On the team.
Eventually, she's trying to make the top six is who will actually be on the established team for the spring. And so she has to play against her friend. She ends up winning the match, but she doesn't make the top six, and so she makes the alternate team. Um, and as she makes the alternate team, um, that she has a whole thing with Thea where she encourages Thea to use her tennis racket and yeah, her arm or whatever. So Thea gets hurt, and we end the season on her
Her
like
shoulder, yeah.
yeah, we end the season on Simone making the team because Thea is injured for the first time
Yeah,
ever.
dropped off, yeah. Hmm.
Right. And so
Hmm.
going a little bit deeper into the Thea of it all, as we talk about tennis, is that they they had their struggles this season. I they were Yeah, there were a couple lines where she was like, I want to be friends with Thea. I don't want to be frenemies. Like that was an
Hmm.
actual line in the show.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
we
think episode
see
3 or something.
yeah, yeah, but we see the struggles of them two being friends because they are rivals. But
Rivals, yeah.
Thea is also very dedicated to like again excellence, like she was in the Backdoor Pilot. She's very dedicated to helping Bringston athletes be the best, especially because her family is so invested in the school.
And the tennis
And
program, yeah.
so Right. So we see various methods of Simone like trying to be friends with Thea, right? Like she throws a birthday party for her, it doesn't go well, right? She tries to help her out with this date. Then that goes, then she's just like, I didn't want to get advice from the jocks and Walinda. Like it's this
Yeah.
whole thing and like then
Yeah.
it's that she's dating this guy who ends up being a horrible guy and makes
Hmm.
almost sexual assault, right? Like it's very close to it. Uh
Yeah.
and we see Thea be angry at Simone because she promised that she would be there, but she ended up going on a date with Jordan instead. And so their whole frenemy ship is is strained throughout the season. And we see different times where they're like close to being friends, right? Like the zone equals love and Thea being there for Simone, and Simone being there for Thea, vice versa. But um and especially when Simone lets Thea know that she had a child, because I think she's the first person that she told openly. So they have these close moments, but then it gets back to the end of the season where it's like, you know,
We're back to
because of the drama
rivals.
on the tennis field
Yeah.
and because of the drama with Damon, because eventually
Demon.
Thea and Damon start dating, um
Hmm.
it gets to them. It gets to them. So what did you think about her and tennis, and then her and Thea?
Okay, I'm going to start with tennis. I've said this so many times. I feel like the tennis storyline, it was so anticlimactic this season because they started with so much focus on this. Like, it was one of the things that really caused her to, like, break down the whole Queen of the Court. I think it was the moment she received the Queen of the Court message from Coach Lonnie. That was the moment. It was like the whole breaking point for her. Like she was already dealing with a lot, and the fact that she hadn't gotten in a lot of practice for the Queen of the Courts, and then she gets that message, and it's like everything comes crashing down, and she experiences the panic attack. So first off, I felt like the tennis storyline also wasn't given a lot of attention the way that it should have, and it wasn't consistent as well. There are so many times I was like, okay, what's going on? There's a match, and then before you know it, there's another match, and like something I keep saying is that I feel like we need to have Coach Lonnie more present next season. I think that would
Boom,
maybe
I
help
agree
or
with that.
something because it
Yeah,
felt like
no,
there was
I'm
so,
1000% with you.
and the fact that we just never got to see her. They would say Coach Lonnie said this and said that, and it was so disjointed in a way that didn't really just, and owing to the fact that her tennis storyline was a major storyline, it was supposed to be a major individual storyline for her. I feel like they didn't really put as much effort like I would have loved to see. But then that aside, we saw the struggle to get into the team, even the fact that her physical had expired and then her getting another one from the president and all of that. And when she finally makes it into the team, the queen of the court, she gets through the whole team and then tier beats her and all that. She makes the team, which was really nice. But like you said, the fact that she was also, because at first I wasn't even thinking about the fact that she was getting back into shape physically after having her baby. I personally wasn't thinking that. until like much later in the season when she was talking about it in episode 5, I think. So the fact that she did that, like, I think it also tells a lot about Simone's strength and perseverance and all of that. She's so, we go back to, because it felt like we kept seeing her struggling, but then in the tennis department, I think we also saw that firmness of her, that firmness and strength that she has as a character was still there, because we saw her get back in shape. Even the whole Queen of the Court tournament, it was really, really good. I loved the whole shot that was going on there. And then the panic attack and the fact that Tia was advising her that she needed to, like, find her zone again. And I really loved the flashback, the fact that, she got that reminder that tennis is something that she has always loved, despite being away from it for so long. Like we said, we didn't even know that she was playing tennis. So we don't know, maybe if she was even playing tennis at Beverly Hills or something, at Beverly rather, the high school. Like, was she
Right.
playing there? What was her life like? I mean, I think she talked about something of how much her mom had spent on tennis when during the whole mentorship episode. I think episode 10 or so. But aside from that, we don't know what her background with tennis was. Aside the fact that she mentioned it, so seeing that flashback and getting that reminder that tennis is something that has always been in her life, I think that was really nice. But like I said, it was not expanded in the way that it should. It felt like things were just being pulled out of thin air to like fill in the gaps or something. But then I think that was a nice callback, to the fact that even child Simone was also that she was just a girl that wanted to play tennis, and then she's still doing that, which was really great. And then when it comes to her and Thea, I honestly would
Yeah,
have preferred.
before you get to that, I
Okay,
just wanted
okay.
to add something
Yeah.
on the tennis front.
Mm-mm.
I think that when I rewatched back
Mm-mm. Okay.
um season 1 on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
which it's still available, go and watch it, everybody. Uh
Yeah, definitely.
I realized, because I was trying to figure out what the disconnect with the tennis storyline was. And I don't know if
Okay.
it's that they didn't spend enough screen time on it. Like, I think that we actually got to see a ton of tennis practices, like a ton of them on the court,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that we actually got to see a lot of tennis like matches. We got to see a lot of tennis matches on
We
the show.
actually
But
did.
to your point, I think that, and I've said this before too, is that we need to see Coach Lonnie. I think the element that's missing is that, we see Marcus
Marcus,
more,
yeah.
and we see how he
Yeah.
guides the baseball team
The
more
team,
than we
yeah.
see how Coach Lonnie guides the tennis team. And I think that's the element of this, like, mentor, which we also know that, like, Amara serves as like sort of a mentor for Simone, but we need a, like,
But in
athletic
terms of
tennis
tennis, yeah.
mentor,
Mm-hmm.
for Simone, to act in sort of the role that Billy acts in on the show, on
For,
All
yeah,
American.
for,
Um and I think that would help to sort of solidify and cement it
yeah,
as the, I guess, the sport of the show. Obviously, we know baseball is also a
for
thing,
her.
but again,
Yeah.
just sort of to really get into those moments where it's like beyond practice and beyond the matches, like getting into the dream of it all.
It feels like all we ever do is just see them play. But where's, we need to see Coach
Where's
Lon
their
and tell him,
fight to
okay,
play? Yeah,
exactly,
where's their
you need to do
inspiration
this,
coming
you need
from?
to do that. Even when she was being called to the office to be told that she didn't make topses, we didn't even see anything. She just goes in and
Right.
then comes out sad and all that. So that disconnect, as much as it felt like it was not much, it was a lot actually. It really got me disconnected from the story, and I hated that as much because of how much I'm so into the storyline, and I really want to see where it goes. But at some point, I couldn't just make out what was going on, honestly.
Yeah. I think
Mhm.
for me it's like when they introduce a tennis coach of sorts, whether it could be Coach Lonnie or it could be an assistant, whoever, but
Anyone, yeah.
introducing someone who's who's
Who can
acting
stay
as
on ground? Yeah. Hmm.
the guide for tennis. Just like we get Marcus for baseball, and just like we get
Yeah, we need
Billy,
that
Billy
presence.
and
We need that
Montez and Mr.
presence.
Montez, and all of the coaches at
Yeah.
GAU. Like that, just like we get
Yeah.
those coaches as guides.
Yeah.
We need that. We need that for
We
tennis
need
as
that
well.
presence. Yeah, we need it.
Or even if she has a private coach, like if they introduce a private coach for her, I
Exactly.
don't know.
Whoever, we
So
just need that. Yeah.
yeah, we just need that. But yes, go ahead on Thea.
Okay. With fear, I feel like the whole transitioning from friendship back to rivals to friends to this to that, it was exhausting. I won't lie to you. Personally, it was exhausting. But then I feel when Thea said something about how she all her life she's played against girls, so it wasn't as if she intentionally wanted to. I kind of perceived it in such a way that she was not intentionally trying to be rivals with anyone. It was just the way that she had grown up being in that sport, and just it felt like she just needed to be in a competition, even when she didn't need to be in one. So I think that's a factor from Pierre's point of view. But then, like Simone said, she didn't want them to just be rivals. She was going to be her tennis captain, so she needed that cordiality in their relationship. And I feel like they were working towards that. They had something going on. After she told her about Baby Shay in episode 5, you could see, I think Thea said, "Oh, you're like strong and you're like that." I feel like they were getting somewhere with their friendship, and that was cool. Even episode 7, the whole comfort zone equal to love thing, it was really sweet. I was rooting for them. I was like, okay, are they finally going through the whole friendship thing? And then they bring the whole demon thing into it. Like, yeah, I know. Someone said, okay, why couldn't Thea get new rackets? Because was it just that once that she used the rackets that she broke her shoulder or something? And
Yeah,
then
so
she's
it's
weak.
basically like rackets. What I got from that is rackets take a
Mm,
lot of time to break in for tennis athletes, and they are like
mm.
it's basically tailored
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah,
each
yeah, yeah.
athlete, and it's like a runner breaking in shoes or something.
Mm,
So Simone's racket I think was heavier than Thea's racket, and
heavy,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. The fact that the only spot that Simone could get into the top six was literally the one that Thea had to drop out of just because. So it kind of intensifies their rivalry, and then there's a whole demon of it all. But I was the moment they had that moment in the finale, I was like, oh my god. So they're setting this up again next season. Like I thought we were going to be done with the whole rivalry between them for the season, but apparently we have to deal with that again in season 2, which I feel is a little bit unnecessary because of how much it feels like they've grown with their relationship. So it kind of like undid everything that they've worked for in a way. And I don't know how I feel about that because I was really cool with them becoming friends. Or what I felt was that maybe they could have just remained rivals or just tennis rivalry without the whole demon of it all, because I feel like demon actually plays a part in the whole thing, because she had to bring up the
For
whole I
sure.
may have exactly she brought up the whole I may have gotten the guy thing line that she brought in.
I may
So I
have
feel
gotten
like
that guy. Yeah. I had to find one way to work that into this podcast. It's my favorite
yeah, yeah.
favorite line from Camille.
Yeah. So I would have just preferred that they were just tennis rivalry if there was going to be any rivalry at all. But apparently that's not the case. So let's see how they want to work that out in season 2.
Yeah, and I think with her relationship with Thea, as well as her friends, which will her greater friend group and family, as they call it, which we'll get into sort of now, is that we're really seeing Simone sort of on this like her not being sort of as assertive as we normally see her, just like with anything, or as we see her on All American, I should say. And so between this with Thea, she's been very like sort of gentle with Thea, right? Um, and we also see this like in her other friendships, like with Damon and JR and Keisha and Nate, right? But she's like building up these friendships with people, but she's also like learning how to um learning how to be a more mature friend, I think I'd say. Whether that's like with Keisha and her dad early on when she's just like, oh yeah, I need this physical, and Keisha's like, grieving her mom's death, which she doesn't know, but you know what I mean? It's just, or
Yeah.
grieving this relationship with her dad and figuring out how to balance like being a friend and not overstepping.
Yeah.
And that's she also has a situation with Nate, with Willinda, where she's just like, if you don't say
Yeah.
nothing, I will. And Nate's like,
I will
I can
say.
handle her. Right.
And
And
then
and
you need
and
to
and
learn to
ask
listen to
her,
people. Yeah.
right, you need to listen to people. And so
Hmm.
we see her in these friendships, and obviously with JR, she's trying to get him to, you know,
Ask
after
about
they,
the
pair up on this
adoption.
whole let's find out who Damon's parents are, tip,
Hmm.
she figures out that his parents are uh, divorced. He tells her that, and he's sort of like throwing his life away at a point in time in the show and the season, and she's trying to get him back on track and encourage him. And so we just see her sort of dealing with all of these friendships and trying to do her best by people, which I think is like a great summation of
Quality.
like her and Keisha and Nate and JR and Damon.
Hmm.
Obviously we'll get to Damon, we'll touch on it. We'll touch on Damon and Jordan. But what did you think about her and like how we saw Simone as a friend, like in season 1, and it really not being a part of like Jordan's friend group for the first time, but really being the
Yeah.
center of a friend group and trying to do her best by people.
I think the friend group thing was actually one of my favorite storylines of the season. I mean, even though it wasn't a concrete storyline in the sense of a storyline, but then we saw the relationships build gradually through the episodes. The fact where Auntie Amara had told her, "You will find your people," and then she did. Like she already knew like Keisha and Nate from the pilot, from the homecoming episode, but then seeing their relationship, because it's one thing to know someone, and then it's another thing to know how to live with them. And then at some point when she moved back into the dorms with Nate, so they were roommates at that point. So like you said, we've never seen her in a friend group outside of what she shared with Damon. I mean, I mean Jordan and his friend group, because I would say it was his friend group, that emphasis on his. So finally she has hers that is built around her, and we see it like expand the relationships. I would say that, I mean, some people would say, oh, she does too much and she doesn't know where to set her boundaries with friendships and all of that. But I feel like
Right.
she's someone who just loves to be there for people. She cares for people a lot, and maybe sometimes she doesn't know where to draw the line, which is something that Nate had told her about. But like she takes advice. I feel like after that, she kind of started, I don't know what I would say, she took a step back, but then I mean that's who she was. So she was always trying to look out for her friends with JR, with Damon, with Keisha even. But like what I'm trying to say is that these are like new people in her life. Like as much as we saw them like be friends and all of that, we can't neglect the fact that she has just met them and she had just started living with them. So she was still trying to learn to be friends with them. As much as their friendship unit was really tight and great and all of that, like they were still new people in her life, and she was learning to adjust to them and see how to work the friendships so that it's not like too little, too much, like Nate suggested. So I feel like this is us seeing her for the first time as a friend to a group of people that were her people, and it was really fun to watch. you could see eventually at the end of, I think in episode 12, when they learned that she could be going back to GAU, you could see how devastated Keisha was and even Nate. So the fact that she has made an impact in their lives and their and them in hers as well. So I mean, it was really fun to watch. I think, like I said, it was my favorite part of the season. The girl time that they had, all those times that they spent with each other, the all I love yous and all best friendship. It was really fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah,
family moments. Yeah, no, I agree. I
yeah.
agree. And you mentioned GAU, and I think that's a good point to bring up. Romantic
Mm-hmm.
tension for a little bit, in the first season, because how can we not talk about it? But obviously, at the same time, she and Jordan are sort of drifting apart. She's building this connection with Damon, which I'm gonna do a full podcast on Devon. So we're not gonna talk about everything they did, but she's building this connection with Damon, an emotional entanglement, as she called it. Uh, Meanwhile, back in
Mm-hmm.
Beverly Hills, Jordan and Layla are building a connection, right? So they drift apart. They eventually break up, and she's dealing
Yeah.
with that breakup. She's dealing with that breakup, and she's trying to figure out, sort of after she's trying to figure out how to be a friend to Damon, because there's always been that connection between the two of them. And so they've been getting close, and like you said, she tries to do right by people, but I think she extra specially tries to do right by Damon.
Damon.
And
Yeah.
they confide each other, and I think that they have a special connection. Even though she has a special connection with everybody, I think she and Damon have an extra special
Extra
connection that's
special. Yeah.
also romantic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, it presents challenges for her in different ways, whether that's with her relationship with Jordan that eventually ended, or whether that's her frenemyship with Thea.
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
so what did you think about sort of her connection with Damon? Um, yeah, what did you think about her connection with Damon, and her the ending of her relationship with Jordan?
Uh, well, I would like to acknowledge that her friendship with Damon, I feel like it always had this underlying thing that was going on
Oh, for
there.
sure, Simone
Even
Hicks.
like,
Yeah, for sure.
even even if at first it might not. I think that I don't know if I don't know at what point they started acknowledging it personally. Because even though to the audience, like they never like admitted anything until like much later in the season. Well, in the first few episodes, we could see that some things were there. But then I feel like her and Damon share this mutual understanding, not just because they're friends or freshmen or anything, they're athletes. Like they get each other on some level that she didn't have with any other person in the friend group, like Keisha or Nate or Jer or any other person. It's like she said in episode 12, she said there was always something between them from the moment they met, you know. So I don't know how, like when she left Bringston in the homecoming episode, I'm sure she knew that. I don't know if she knew that she was going. Okay, we already established that she knew she was going to enroll at Bringston, but then obviously she knew that Damon was also going to enroll there as well. So I don't know what that thought process was like for her. If she knew that she was going to come back to Princeton and meet him after telling
Right,
herself or after knowing that she had that special something with him. So we saw
right.
the excitement in her voice when she was like, "Oh, Damon lives here." That kind of stuff.
Yes.
So, I mean, like she said that it was nice to know that someone she knew lives there. So, like, from the jump, that comfort of having him there, we could see how excited she was. Like, knowing that he was there brought her some form of comfort, like, knowing that this person is someone that she's cool with, someone that, she likes, or maybe wanted to be close with, or whatever. Like, the fact that he was there made her feel comfortable and then he made himself super available in the sweetest way. To
Yeah, both of them did. Both of them did.
Yeah, so like everything he did. I mean, her boyfriend was what, miles away, 3,000 miles away, and then there was this
Yeah.
person who also happened to be a boy, was there for her in ways that a boyfriend could be there for someone, right?
And they
And then she
connected
still,
specifically. Sorry, they connected
okay,
specifically
okay,
talking about their moms, and they both had these like changing
exactly.
relationships with their moms, even throughout this
Mm-hmm.
season, right? Like Simone's getting closer to her mom after, she tells her mom to accept baby Say. So they
Yes,
always are talking about
yes.
family and what they think of the world for sure.
Like I feel like their journey is so much in the same direction. Like they have so much in common. Even take away the romance, like they have so much in common, whether as athletes, whether with their moms, the whole adoption situation. Like there was always something that was going to bring them together. Like there's something
Yeah.
I always say, whether they choose to explore them romantically or not, like their journeys will always,
Intertwine, yeah.
they're always going to have something between them. Like it's always going to be there and it's not going to change. Like no matter how many tantrums people throw about that, it's always going
Yeah.
to be there. So yeah. And like
Yeah,
you
no,
said,
that's a good point. And they sort
yeah.
of end the season. End the season on that note.
Mm,
Obviously she doesn't leave Bringston
yeah.
because to this point we've been talking
She
about family a lot for the past couple of minutes, but she really
mhm,
has found a family and a home at Bringston,
yeah.
and she ends up making it into the top 6 because of that injury
Sophia.
to Thea, and because the school is saved, yay! We didn't really talk about the school, but it was,
Yeah.
yeah, Branson was in trouble. It was safe. Um, and so, with that being said, knowing that she's in the top 6, knowing that she has solidified this family, that she solidified her friendship group, knowing that she and Damon are getting their friendship back on track and everything, but obviously they both acknowledge that there's always been something there. Um,
Yeah.
and even that she's having this like tension with Thea. Where do you see Simone headed into season 2? And what do you think's gonna happen for her? Especially as Amara, her aunt, is gonna now be the president of the school.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about that. Okay, me and some of my friends, we always have these speculations. Okay. But personally, like I said, I'm kind of not confused, but I'm not sure where we're going to go into with her storyline or what we're going to explore. Aside the tennis part, and then of course her aunt is now president, so I don't know how that's going to affect her, whether be it academically. We didn't really see, they didn't really touch on that. So maybe, right, something like that. And then tennis, I don't know how soon Tia is going to recover back. Is she going to come and try and take back her place in the team or something? I don't know. And then Damon, of course, there's always going to be Damon in her life. We don't know to what extent and what the dynamic is going to look like, or if they're going to introduce any new person in her life
Yeah,
romantically. But then I'm just excited to see how relationships continue, especially with Nate and Keisha. I think that's
same.
what I'm
Her
looking
friendships,
forward
yeah,
to the most. And then tennis, I'm really excited to see what they do with that. It's like we've
yeah.
seen everything that needs to be seen, but then I'm curious to see where that goes further.
Same
Yeah.
here, same here. And so I guess we're both saying that I have nothing to add. Like I think you summed it up well in saying that the possibilities are endless for Simone Hicks, and we're excited to
Exactly.
see season 2.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I wish I could think more of things that I want them to explore, but it's like I don't even know. Like I think everything will hit me apart from tennis and her friendships. Every other thing would be a surprise. Okay, and then Damon, of
Yeah,
course, there's always going to be Damon, but then we don't even know how that dynamic will be explored. So but
yeah.
apart from all
It's
of
so
this,
open. They
every other
left it
thing
so
is going
open ended.
exactly so open ended. So apart from that, every other thing would come as a surprise. I guess. I hope
Yeah.
it's a pleasant one.
and surprised we will be on October 10th,
Yeah,
2022,
I
as we get the
cannot
first
wait.
episode of the season. Same here, same here, same
I
here.
can't
Well,
wait.
thank you so much for being on the pod and breaking down Simone Hicks with me. Thanks for listening to Film Study and All American Podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode.